I'm Rosalie Kicks, editor-in-chief and old sport at MovieJawn, and today I'm having a cinema chat with a writer-director, Aaron Strand, and we're going to talk about his latest film, Withdrawal. Hi, Aaron. How's it going?
Hey, old sport. How you doing?
I'm good. So I thought it would be really great if you could just give people kind of a synopsis of what your film's about, when it was shot, and basically what you're doing now.
Yeah, for sure. So the film is called Withdrawal. It is my first feature film. The story follows two star-crossed artists who have to withdraw from heroin overnight to save their relationship. It's a film that's inspired by my own experience. I'm a former addict, and I've been sober for 13 years. And this was a film that I shot in 2023, and then it premiered in 2025. We did our world premiere at the Atlanta Film Festival. We spent the rest of that year doing the film festival circuit, which was good, and we got in a number of places and won some awards, and that was pretty cool. But I was really excited to transition into this new frontier, which is really an old frontier, but we're going to call it a new frontier for now, of roadshow touring the film across the country and self-distributing the movie. And that speaks to sort of the state of distribution for a film like this that was shot for $60,000, does not have any name attachments, is essentially an underground film. And how do you get people to see it? I think this is the question that so many filmmakers are asking themselves now. So we've launched this tour this year, and the results have honestly been better than I even expected. We've expanded to over 20 cities. Have played. We're going to be playing all over North America, U.S. and Canada, and I'm still only in probably like the first third of the tour itself. So there's a lot more dates coming up, and a lot more travel, and a lot more opportunities to meet new audience members and to really interact with people in real life, which is the real joy of distributing a movie this way.
Yeah, I will say that attending the Philadelphia screening, it was so neat to see the discussion that happened after the film and just the questions that came from the audience. But not only just questions, people just wanted to talk about the movie
Yeah.
and, how it made them feel or how they related to the content. So that was really cool. And are you seeing that like throughout your road show that people are reacting in that way?
Yeah, I mean, I do think that Q&A was really special. I think in large part because of the presence of Savage Sisters Recovery, which is an amazing harm reduction organization in Philadelphia. They were kind enough to come out to the show. They were giving out free Narcan and free test strips, and so many of those women have direct experience with addiction. And so I believe what you're referencing is because at a certain point, someone asked a question of like, I think it was just like, what happens like after the movie ends, or like, what do you think happens after the movie ends, or why did a character make a certain decision toward the end of the film?
Yes.
And I didn't want to answer the question directly because like part of the joy of the film is like the audience, getting to speculate on what they think. That's like why we told the story that way. And so it was really cool that once I turned it over to the audience, a lot of those women in particular started sharing their experiences with addiction recovery and sort of their lived truth that could exist within the capsule of the story. And yeah, it was a really magical, really cool moment. Not every Q&A goes that way. Sometimes it's a little bit more sort of a little bit more focused on like, how did you make the movie this way, or why did you shoot it on these cameras, and yada yada. But every audience is different, and I think I if there's anything I've learned throughout this process, number one, God, is it hard to sell a movie. It's incredibly humbling. I never forget how humbling and how precious every single person that chooses to purchase a ticket and sacrifice those precious hours of their life to come take a risk on your art is such a it's such an honor. Honestly, that's number one. Number two is that people find out about the film and feel compelled to go see it for such a diverse array of reasons. If it was so easy as like, oh, you just go viral on Instagram in this one way and then people buy tickets, then like I would just do that. But like the evidence is showing that it really takes a pretty comprehensive effort to try to engage with people, touch people, and get them out to the cinema. And one of the best ways is through partnering with folks like you. I mean, I'm so grateful to you and MovieJawn for helping promote the screening, and it's just is this incredible like local stamp of approval to like the people of your city saying like, hey, we stand behind this project and you should come take a risk on it. Anyway, I feel like I'm digressing in a million different directions.
It's okay.
All that to say is that like what's so cool, what is really cool about the roadshow is each screening in each city, big towns, small towns, big audiences, small audiences, they all have their own sort of vibe and you never really know what to expect.
Sure. And I guess let's talk about that. How did you organize this roadshow? Because are you the one booking them, setting it up? Like, take me through that process.
Yeah, I didn't really know exactly how it was gonna go. I did have a little bit of a leg up just because I program, promote, and host repertory screenings here in Atlanta, Georgia, and in Athens, Georgia, like my two hometowns here in Georgia where I'm based. So like I'm a little bit in the flow of like programming, working with independent cinemas, and marketing screening events. So I had some of those reps under my belt, but I really had no idea what to expect once I started dabbling into this essentially world of where I'm serving as my own theatrical distributor. So yeah, I'm basically doing everything. I contact the theaters. At this point, I've contacted, I think, about 450 independent cinemas across the US and Canada. I'm the one who's doing all the negotiating back and forth as we try to figure out how to make a screening possible. A lot of the considerations for an independent cinema in taking on a project like this, they want to know what your track record is thus far, how many tickets you've sold. They want to know what sort of marketing plan you have in place. They know how hard it is to get butts in seats, and so they want to make sure that you understand that. And then they have a lot of considerations that they have to figure out. One of the best metaphors that a cinema owner has ever told me is that like it's easy for us to think of independent cinemas as sort of like boutique restaurants that are like catering this like farm to table menu of like based on like their favorite ingredients, and like that's how we would all love a local cinema to be. The truth of the matter is that they mostly operate as retail stores, but with like the very very limited shelf space, to the point where like literally each screen is a shelf. And so if you have a single screen house, they got one shelf. If you have a 3-screen movie house, they've got 3 shelves. And then they have to make really, really tough decisions about what products do they put on those shelves. Some of them are on wholesale. That would be like your studio films. Some of them are on consignment. That's probably more your like kind of like Neon A24 type, like maybe limited run type things. And then they have a little bit of room left to accommodate people like me who have no distributor, who have no I have no sort of institutional support. I'm just a guy out here like hustling my movie like Master P, in the 90s. And so it becomes economically and just strategically pretty difficult. So So those are the considerations that if anybody's thinking about doing this, we want to be empathetic to our theatrical partners, and these are some of the constraints that they deal with, because it can be very frustrating via email. It's like, God, like, why won't these theaters schedule me, or why won't they give me a better night or a better time slot? It's like, well, they have a lot of things to juggle and like very, very limited wiggle room. So then I'm the one who's booking the shows, marketing them, finding community partners in every city, trying to make this as much of an event as possible, because the success of the shows really sort of sink or swim as to how many connections you can make with that local community. When you're a film that does not have a Sundance, South by, Tribeca, TIFF stamp of approval on your poster, when you don't have the articles in Variety and IndieWire, why would anyone trust you? And I mean, like, there's like the best part of me as a cinephile would love to say, it's like, well, you don't need those institutions to like get to validate you and yada yada yada. But the truth of the matter is that there's so many movies out there. We, as movie lovers and enjoyers, we rely on tastemakers, whether it be official channels of the festivals and the trades, or individual programmers in our city that we trust. And we have to rely on these tastemakers to help us choose what to watch, because we just have so many options.
Yeah, and well, so just to kind of go back a moment when you were talking about the theaters and the limited, especially if they only have like one or two screens, that's similar to how MovieJawn got started with tabling at the theaters. I was doing the same thing as you, but from the perspective of, hey, it would make sense if this magazine was available at the movie theater, and especially like small theaters, because that's where cinephiles go. But I kind of ran into the issue like, well, we don't have money to put out, to buy this every quarter. And then it kind of struck me, well, why don't I just show up in the lobby and sell the magazine? And that is exactly, they were fine with that. They were like, oh, you're going to advertise the screening? Sure, I don't care if you set up. Because to them, it was like, well, they may get more people to come out and they don't have to do anything. Like, it's just they give us a table, we set up, and then we hustle the magazine. And that's when I started realizing about the partnership that you can make with the theater, where it's kind of you're helping each other.
Yeah.
And one thing that was interesting to me recently when I was talking to a cinema owner was we had shown a screening of Mr. Peabody and the Mermaid, and it's from like 1948. And she had warned me it was going to be an uphill battle, like getting people to come out on a Thursday night to watch an old black and white movie about a guy that falls in love with a mermaid. And we ended up getting like 55 people there,
Hell
which
yeah.
they were very happy. And, I was kind of like, I wanted it to be more packed. And she was like, no, this is great. She's like, you have to understand, a lot of people only go to the cinema 2 to 3 times a year, which honestly shocked me.
Yes.
Like, I think I go to the theater every week. So to hear that somebody only goes 2 to 3 times a year, and it kind of got me thinking about a movie like yours, like what an uphill battle to get people to come out to spend time watching something they've never heard of. So, the fact that even if you get 20 people, I think it's so impressive.
Yeah. And like, there are times where you can definitely feel discouraged. I mean, it can feel like a real uphill scramble. But it's helpful to remember that, I'm not alone. The people at the very top of the food chain are struggling to figure out how to get butts in seats.
Right.
And that's one of the, despite all the challenges of self-distribution theatrically right now, one of the biggest benefits is that the bar ain't that high.
Right.
Like like if you can beat the average kind of mid-tier studio film, which is only pulling like 30 people a show like throughout the week, if you can beat that, that's financially advantageous to a theater. You know, that's part of your selling point, and that's part of your advantage.
Well, and here's something I've been seeing a lot online and kind of wanted to get your thought on it. Film festivals, do you think that they're worth it for indie films? Some people feel like with the cost of applying and that sort of thing, and then like, what do you get out of it if your film actually makes it into a fest?
I do think we are in a film festival bubble that will be popping. I would say over the next 10 years, I would anticipate there to be less film festivals than there currently are. The issue is that film festivals, by and large, most of these festivals were founded in the sort of like indie boom and like increase of the 90s throughout the early 2000s. Going by the number of sales and like purchases, indie film technically peaked in like 2015. So if you think about from 1993, the sort of like the first great year of Sundance, and like when Sundance Film Festival like really announced itself, there was this massive bull market run for about 20 years. And now so many market forces have changed, that we are now in a film festival recession, I think. And the biggest problem is that so many of these festivals are unable to fulfill the core mission by which they were founded, which is based on number one, discovery of films that have never been heard before, and the ability to elevate those films into a marketplace so that filmmakers could actually make a career. And by and large, festivals aren't able to fulfill that mission. I mean, just follow even at Sundance, the top festival of the world, which I'm going to use as a bunch of examples,
Sure.
as sort of because they are the leader here in the United States, and they're sort of indicative of so many of the problems that are taking place. You look at a festival like Sundance, you know, they're programming 60 to 70 features, docs and narrative every year, and the number of sales that are able to be made at Sundance are dwindling.
I've gone to Sundance to cover it a few times, and of course, my first time it was very exciting.
Of course.
It was like a dream that I even got to go to a festival like that. But then the more I kept coming back, I found as a film writer, a journalist, so many of the film, some of them that they were showing, a lot of them were already sold. They were films that already had a distributor lined up. They were coming from a studio. And that was when I started to question, well, what is the point of this festival? I'm watching movies that are going to come out or they already have a guarantee. And when I was in film school, Sundance, to how you're speaking, was more a place where someone could be discovered, like a unheard of filmmaker that's going to make a name for themselves. And then you would hear about these wild stories of like deals happening in condos and people, selling their film. And kind of at that point, then their career was going to take off. And I feel, the last year or two that I went to Sundance, you kind of had less of that happening. And it was more the movies were already coming in sold.
Yeah.
It was upsetting to see that. And then also the similar kind of mindset happening at TIFF. I've covered TIFF quite a number of times. And one of my peers, they worked for a major outlet. And, the difference between, I think, MovieJawn, based that I am the publisher, I can choose whatever I want to cover. And the majority of the time, I'm trying to choose things that are small and independent, things that may not necessarily see the light of day. But this person, as covering for a major outlet, I mean, they were basically told to cover everything that already had a distributor. So a lot of the titles I was mentioning, I had seen, she didn't even have on her radar or didn't even know about because they too have such limited resources at this point. So the things they're being told to cover is, well, this is going to make money for the magazine or the website.
I mean, you're describing the what I will now make up the term. You're talking about the industrial complex,
Okay, this is new to me.
the indie industrial complex, where basically, um, independent film has lost all meaning.
Right.
Independent film is now a marketing tool to make low budget star vehicles feel authentic. And these festivals and the publicists that that the films hire and the outlets that those publicists have relationships with all work in coordination to create uh marketing packages for movies that are already like within that system.
Hmm.
And they've over time the term indie has been corrupted and warped by these market forces, and which, like, I'm not blaming any of these individuals or institutions for finding ways to survive. It's a very challenging marketplace right there, so I'm not here to just like lambast people. But this is what has happened, and this is why the NonDe movement was founded, and why Ted Hope, coined this term of, or basically looked at the marketplace, said independent has lost all meaning. We need a new term, and he came up with this idea of NonDe, which has become somewhat of a rallying cry for filmmakers like myself, who are making films completely outside of that complex system.
And I guess too, is that kind of also where these road shows spawned from, like basically doing it yourself, not relying on some sort of, I would say, like corporate or executive backing, just going out doing it yourself.
Yeah, totally. I mean, I think so many people, it's funny, like the roadshow model is really one of the oldest of Hollywood. Back in the 19 teens and 20s, this is how many films were distributed, where literally a filmmaker would like have their print of the movie and they would like go from town to town playing the movie. Unfortunately, probably the most successful roadshow in history was Birth of a Nation, and which is like, probably statistically the most profitable film of all time, as shameful as that is. Anyway, uh, we don't need to be looking to that as an example,
Right.
but that is a historical fact. Instead, we can look to more modern examples, and really, this is, I sound a bit like a broken record at this point, but looking at what happened with Hundreds of Beavers, the incredible roadshow success that those filmmakers were able to have, $1 million gross theatrical revenue, all self-distributed, all by eventizing their movie, and how poetic that their movie is actually, a nod to black and white silent slapstick, and this beautiful homage to Chaplin and Keaton and Harold Lloyd, and that those filmmakers who used to utilize that model, they could now bring back in around like in the early post pandemic years. And so that, I think, woke a lot of people up to the possibilities of self distribution, of theatrical road shows, and the hunger from audiences, whether they knew it or not. Audiences always can smell the bullshit. They can always smell the corporate packaging. You might not have any other options. You might not know, you might not be able to put your finger on it, but you know that something inside of you is just like, oh, I feel like I'm being like I don't know. I'm just not excited. I'm not. I
Right.
don't feel that. I don't feel the butterflies in my stomach.
Well, yeah, and something I had been thinking about is, I guess if you weren't doing the road show, what would have happened to your film? Like, it would have ended up on streaming possibly,
Yeah.
and at that point I feel it falls into the abyss. I mean, you see that kind of all the time where a movie gets put right to streaming, and maybe for a couple weeks people are watching it searching for it, but then after that it kind of just disappears.
Yeah. Well, and what's also so problematic is that there are so many predatory mid to low tier distributors in the system. Again, most of them came into business in a bygone era under totally different economic circumstances. And now to survive, they've kind of instituted a pretty predatory model where essentially they're treating filmmakers like musicians of color in the 20th century, where they're offering them these deals where they take exclusivity of the film. They say that you're going to get some percentage of profits, but then they hide these amorphous advertising budgets that constantly need to be repaid back through the profits of the film. And basically they use these fake advertising budgets to make sure the filmmaker never sees a dollar and the distributor gets to keep all the money that's made. And in the meantime, like, they're not actually advertising the film. They're doing like one Instagram post, but they keep
Right.
billing for advertising fees. So I was certainly never going to do that. And we got a number of those offers, but that wasn't the path we were going to take. But then what are your other recourses? Like, you could put it on YouTube. You could do the, like, the Curry Barker, strategy, or you could go with an aggregator. There's a couple aggregator companies out there, Film Hub and Bitmax, which they will you can do different deals with them, whether you pay up front or you do some sort of revenue split. They will get your film on all the major streamers, AVOD and PVOD, but then they take no responsibility in terms of advertising the film. And I think that that's like a slightly more beneficial model, at least for a filmmaker that doesn't really have any other recourse. So yeah, I mean, that's probably what we would have done at the time, and that may very well be what we do in the future, because I can't just roadshow the film, in perpetuity forever. I'm not Bob Dylan over here. So
Right. And you're also going to want to work on other projects, I'd
you
assume.
know, I'm itching pretty bad. Rosalie. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah, I mean, that was something I was wondering, with so much time spent on the road, like, how do you even balance trying to work on your creative projects?
Yeah, it's tough.
Yes.
I hate to say it, but so much of my creative energy right now goes toward crafting the marketing campaign for this movie, i.e., filming and editing Instagram videos and TikTok reels.
Right.
It's true. And
I
it's a part
know.
of the job that I feel a sense of responsibility for. I wouldn't say that it necessarily excites me like a lot. I enjoy interacting with people. I do. I enjoy when the film resonates through social media, but and it's cool to see like what works and what doesn't. But it still, at the end of the day, feels like I'm beholden to the project rather than like, I'm necessarily being fulfilled by that part of the process.
Well, right. I understand that because I feel similar when we release a new magazine. At that point, I'm very tired, but then I have to tell people about it or they don't know it exists.
Yeah, exactly.
And so you do have to create these videos and reels on Instagram. And I too have people say, "Oh, do you like making them?" No, I do not like making them. I don't particularly like being in front of the camera. But you do what you have to do to get it out there. Like, that's why I make them.
Yeah. And when you and because and like, man, like, the love that you put into MovieJawn, like, what a just a quality, like,
Well,
just what a
thanks.
piece of quality it is. Like, it deserves to be known by everybody. And I want everybody to like hold one in their hand and be able to read it. Like, I mean, I can't even, like, I took an hour for myself on Father's Day. I got two little kids at home, and I and but I took an hour of dad time on Father's Day. I went to a coffee shop and I got to open up the copy of MovieJawn that you gave me at the screening, And it was such a wonderful, I guess that was a Sunday. It was such a wonderful Sunday afternoon sitting in a coffee. I can't remember the last time I've just gone to a coffee shop, not worked, and read a piece of print media. It was delightful. So like it deserves to be marketed and for everyone to know about it. But yeah, it's tough.
And I think that's hearing you talk like this is why I really connected with you at the Philly screening, because MovieJawn was essentially birthed from the same place as how you're distributing your film. We want to be able to talk about movies that nobody's talking about. And yeah, sure, it's really fun to cover the blockbusters, especially getting to see them first and then write about them. But the thing is, something I've come to learn over time is nobody is coming to MovieJawn to read about Superman. Like we are not Variety, we are not IndieWire. But when we write about a smaller film, I have seen such the impact that it can have, because the filmmaker will get excited, the people involved with the film, the fact that somebody noticed something that they did. And from there, they share it. And I'm wondering if you see that from like the events you do. Do you get people asking you, oh, I know somebody that would love to watch this. How can they watch it? I know you sell DVDs at your shows.
Yeah. Yeah, the word of mouth is huge.
Hmm.
It's really huge. And both in person, I mean, I love the fact that, there are, because I mean, I've kind of been blown away. I mean, I've sold over 200 of these DVDs that
That's wonderful.
I'm literally like burning myself today. Um
Right.
they're just bootleg DVDs of the movie. And I love that there are 200 untraceable copies of the movie out in the world.
Well, and that's the thing too about physical media. You don't know where it will go. Like
Mm-mm.
how many people is it going to touch? And, I think that's another, similar to what we're talking about with just corporations and, being evil. But they don't want us to own things. If we own it, then we can give it to somebody else. We can expose them to it. And when things are digital, they can just take it away. And
Yep.
that's what I love about the magazine is I don't know where that magazine's going to go after that person's done with it, who they're going to give it to. Um, that excites me, especially when I think about like a younger cinephile. If they find the magazine and they find out about these weird movies that are out there in the world, and that there's more than just Marvel.
Yeah.
There's other things to watch.
Yeah.
So I think it's really cool. I can't believe you've sold that many. That's so awesome.
Yeah, I was not expecting that to be my number one seller, but yeah, it definitely is. And it's cool to how excited people are by the physical media. And yeah, I mean, the same thing happens digitally as well, like, and I'm really grateful for that. At this point, just in really the last month and a half, and because some reels that I've cut have like gone viral, I'm getting like 3 to 4 DMs every day from people all over the world, both in the US and also Europe, asking to see the movie. Where can I watch this? Where can I watch this? And so that's evidence in and of itself that the tour and the all the social media that goes along with it is working. And now I just need to figure out a way to, especially for our European friends that want to see the movie, of like, how do I get it to them?
Yeah. I mean, you could
Yeah.
go there.
I could. I got these 2 kids that I love
Yes.
very, very much.
And I'm assuming a spouse.
And I have a wife that is who's an executive producer on the film and who's like incredibly supportive, but we don't want to be taking advantage of
Right.
the wife's support here. So like 2-week jaunts across Europe that might not be on the table. I'll tell you, because like right now, every screening that I do, I only travel for 24 hours. So that I can get
Wow.
back and pick up the kid. Like I'm flying out to LA tomorrow. I will be back in Georgia 24 hours later so I can pick up these kids from daycare.
Oh my god.
That's part of I feel that that's part of, that's my responsibility. I've been given this incredible gift to like go do that. So like
Right.
there's you have a lot of responsibilities as you get middle aged.
Yes.
um so yeah, so I would, as much as I would love to go to Europe, I think that would be something that I would need some more support on. I also like, I don't even know how to begin like negotiating with theaters over there.
Right.
It's something, it's so out of my element. It does feel a little overwhelming. If there's anybody listening who's watching this that knows anything about European distribution, would love to have a conversation. But yeah, that's kind of where I'm at right now.
Well, I think before we wrap up, what where do you see the film going, I guess, after the road shows are done? Like, do you have a plan of what you're going to do with the movie after that?
Yeah, there, I don't mean to be overly negative to distributors, because there's a couple smaller distributors out there who I love, who I would like just about give anything to like be on. Factory 25, if you're out there, like hit me up. Matt Grady, where you at? So there's part of me that like would hope that maybe we could find a home on a label somewhere. But if we don't, the path of the film is that I will most likely go to an aggregator, do a streaming release. Probably towards the end of the year, December rolls around, the theaters get packed full of extra studio films as everybody's sort of chasing Oscar buzz. And of course, the holidays make it really complicated to schedule screening events. So that might be a time when we do our streaming premiere and make it available at home through an aggregator. That won't preclude me from doing other tour stops in the future, but I don't think it will be as with the frequency that I'm currently doing it. And I have projects lined up for 2027, so I will
Oh,
need to
great.
sort of transition out of this phase of my artistic life and back to being in pre-production and on set. But with the idea that I will do this again with the next films. This is a sort of laying down some foundational architecture. I want to build relationships with these theaters, with community partners, so that hopefully when the time comes for the next film, hey, let's run it back, and do another event, and kind of keep building from there. So yeah, that's kind of how I'm thinking about my career going forward.
That's really great. And do you want to share anything about your next project, or are you keeping it under wraps yet?
Keeping a couple things under wraps right now. I've got I have a beautiful project that I have co-written with an artist named Jessica Blinkhorn. She is a lifelong wheelchair user who has spinal muscular atrophy type 2. But is a visual artist, has had an incredible life, and we have developed a story based on her experience and some of her sexual exploits with her caregivers, that I am very excited about diving in, that explores really the nature of power dynamics and caregiving within a relationship, but seen through the lens of somebody who requires full-time care, which I think is really really interesting. And it's a beautiful story of love, told through a body that you never see on screen, and certainly never see on screen as somebody who's both being desired and is desiring. So all those things like really really excite me, and because I never want to make a film where I don't shoot something that I think nobody has ever seen before. And I think we've got stuff there, and Jessica has just become one of my closest friends, and so I'm really excited about that project. I've also signed on to direct a horror film, a sort of like fun like romp of a B horror film that I'm so stoked to dive in and like make some like wild kills and bad guys and good guys, and I think that'll be a lot of fun. So yeah, that's what I'm looking forward to in 2027.
That's great. When does that start shooting, or you're not sure yet?
We're both are still getting their funding together.
Okay.
There's been good movement on both, so I'm hopeful we'll start to get some shoot dates together here in the next couple months. Yeah.
Yeah, and I guess before we wrap up here, where should people follow you, watch out for updates if they want to go to one of the road shows? Where should they look?
Yeah, so the easiest way you can follow us on Instagram and TikTok at Withdrawal Film is both the handle on both platforms. You can also follow me on Substack. My Substack is called Broke, Sober, and NonDe. And on the Substack, I go into a little bit more detail, really trying to detail every single stop of the tour. I try to be completely transparent about the ticket sale process, like how much money we were able to make versus how much we spent, what's the profitability, how we went about curating each show. I want this to be a living document so that other filmmakers can look at it and determine whether or not this roadshow process is something that they could or could not do, and if their film is the right fit. I think a lot of people can do road shows, but maybe it not might not be right for everybody. And so I think the only way we can do that is by being transparent, trying not to, the film industry is so beholden to this, like, you keep your secrets to yourself and presenting this image of success and like sort of unattainable and just being gatekeepery about it, and that just sucks. It sucks so hard.
Yes, I found that too with the, covering film festivals. Nobody really wants to tell you how they apply or, when you do get to the festival, how do you navigate such fest and covering it? And that's something I too, similar to you with the MovieJawn folks, I just share all that information. Like, this is how you do it. And I think I read your Substack post about the Philomoka screening, and I loved how transparent it was and just being open, like, this was the positive, this was the negative, and that kind of information is so valuable. And I'm sure somebody's going to stumble upon it and be so grateful that it's out there.
I hope so. It's a joy to write, and it's a joy to talk about the positives, such as you and Movie John.
Right.
And but yeah, and just trying to be of service, just trying to be of use. I wouldn't have done this roadshow had I not just been following the path of other people. I sat down with
Exactly.
other people that roadshowed their movies. We sat down, we had coffee. I asked them every question that I could think of and determined whether or not I could do it. So that's the kind of living document that I hope to leave behind. I want my legacy to be one of that I was of service to others. I want this roadshow to be one that's of service to others. I don't want it can't work if it's just all about like, hey, just come see my thing. I want to add value. It's been so cool that like at different stops on this roadshow, we've been able to partner with some of the amazing community partners like we got to in Philly. When I was out in Orange County, we were able to raise money for a filmmaker who is making her first feature film out there, and I was able to give her all the profits from our merch sales. That's what at its best, the non-D movement is a mass movement of mutual aid, filmmakers coming together to help each other make the next film. And that's in its ideal form. That's what I want this tour to be. That's what I'm always trying to aspire to. And definitely, when you think about the legacy you want to leave, and you try to do the best you can with what you got. And so yeah, that's what I got.
Well, I think that's a great place to end. And I really thank you for taking this time because I know you're extremely busy. And I wish you luck on the rest of the road show.
Oh, thank you so much. It's been great talking to you.